All right. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is great to be back. Great to see you again this evening for our second night of Holy Week meditations for 2021. I am Jonathan Chapman. I have the wonderful honor and pleasure of serving Church on Purpose as pastor. And I'm excited to be back with my friend, my homeboy, my brother, Pastor Marvin Gilliam of the Mount Carmel Baptist Church in Richmond, Virginia. And I'll kick it over to him for him to introduce our guest for tonight.
Cool, family. We're so glad that you're with us again tonight, night two. Last night was a great night, and we are looking forward to furthering this Holy Week conversation and meditations as we reflect on the characters in and around and support and are part of the story of Jesus' final week. Tonight, we're excited to have with us Pastor H. Patrick Cason from Bethany Baptist Church in Chesapeake. I think it's Chesapeake. I know it's on Campus Stella. But I'm North Campostella or Chesapeake Campostella.
I'm north of Campostella, but now I pastor in the Chesapeake Campostella.
Got you. All right. So Bethany Baptist Church leads a phenomenal congregation, faith community down in that area in Tidewater 757. And we have with us as well, back again, like he never left from last year. A friend and brother, Dr. Price Davis from Mosby Memorial Baptist Church right here in Richmond, Virginia. So we're excited to have them both sharing with us tonight.
So it's a great night. It's great to have you, Pat, here for the first time. As Marvin mentioned, though, it's great to have Dr. Davis back joining us again. He was one of the crowd favorites from 2020's edition of Holy Week Meditations, and he earned the nickname last year, Price Shut It Down Davis.
No. Shut it down.
For those of you that may have forgotten, let's take a look back at our conversation last year.
Oh, wow.
Are we doing that for real?
We're doing it.
Nevertheless, that is powerful and practical, even for the ones that are watching who aren't pastors, just the parishioner. You lost your job, but is God still faithful?
And does God need to keep me alive in order to continue?
David, preach, boy. Oh. Bye.
So that, brothers, if case you forgot, that is that was our experience last year with Dr. Davis.
I don't even know what I said, man.
He heard us. Marvin had to hang up.
Look, I remember that, but I was trying. I'm like, what was it that I said? I know I said something at the end there, but I couldn't remember even what I said.
That was in the second hour. That was
in the second or the third.
That was 1 hour 36 minutes into the conversation.
Wow.
Oh man.
Yeah. So this has really been a rich time of sharing these last couple of years, and so man, I'm just really excited tonight to talk about some of those whom we cast as the villains in some way in the story of this narrative of Holy Week, as we talk about tonight. Pharisees, the Sadducees, and particularly Caiaphas, who's the high priest, kind of as a representative for that group. So, yeah. So if y'all ready,
let's jump in.
Jump in, man. Feet first. Let's jump in. So just to start, we like to definitely start with our guest for tonight. Just any kind of preliminary or initial thoughts as you think about there's so much interaction between Jesus and the Pharisees and Sadducees and teachers of the law throughout the Gospels, and particularly as the buildup comes towards Holy Week and during Holy Week. And we see during that week, Jesus spending a lot of time in the first couple of days of that week, just, kind of having these back and forths as the Pharisees and Sadducees are trying to trap him and find ways to discredit him because he's garnered so much attention from the people. So any preliminary thoughts that you have, and how we do, we're gonna flow from there.
Mm-hmm. So go ahead, brother.
No. I yield to shut it down. My initial thought was necessary evil. So there are, and we still find it today in the church, these necessary evils of religiosity and traditionalism that try to keep God and the work of God boxed in like the Ark of the Covenant. So to me, I see these because I started pastoring a very traditional church. And as God was shifting us from religion to relationship, they tried to use these scriptures out of context to try to confine us in to what God was doing, and where I wanted to be like Jesus and overturn the tables. I had to find myself combating them in a different way, and trying to finding space and place to still teach and grow, but at the same time, yielding myself to what God was doing, but not ostracizing them. So to me, it kept me in a humble place, where I wanted to really come and lash out sometimes. God had to really yield to me that they really don't know. And I feel that this necessary evil is in place partially because they really don't know.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
That is good. The whole idea of necessary evils and how that plays into the church, brother pastor. One of the things that, as I was just kind of reviewing and reading and just kind of meditating on this moment and looking at what causes those evils is what Jesus does as he comes onto the scene in his last week here on earth. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to understand, okay, so what we know that there's Pharisees, Sadducees, Caiaphas, chief priests, elders, teachers of the law. The reason why they come hard at him, I think, in this last week is because of two things that he does that are not traditional, or they're not consistent with the traditions in which they understand Jesus coming in. He comes in on a donkey in Jerusalem, when typically, kings that would come in and ride triumphantly would ride on horses. He comes in on a donkey.
Yeah.
He comes in on a donkey, and then from all of that, and one of the things that I shared in my sermon in this past Sunday is what really is interesting is this same crowd that is crying out Hosanna is the same crowd that is about to cry out crucify him.
Right.
And then from him coming into town, this is the second thing. The second thing is that he does that is not traditional. He comes up and he begins to tear up the temple.
Yeah.
Because they're prostituting the good news. They're prostituting God, and they're taking advantage of those who are least left out and marginalized.
Yeah.
So it's those two things that really, I think, really pushes those individuals who are considered to be quote unquote evil, that pushes them over the edge and say, okay, look, we gotta kill him. Mm-hmm. He's going against everything. He's messing up our agenda.
Mm-hmm. So Dr. Davis, I would raise from that first point, when we talk about how Jesus entered, he came in on a donkey, which is a animal that's recognized biblically as an animal of peace. Horses are recognized as animals of war. So maybe like the initial thought is they tried Jesus because he came in nice and easy. He didn't come in looking to start a fight, but he came in like, I'm coming in peaceably. And so they were like, well, if he coming in like that, then we gonna have to test. We're gonna have to test him. And so, as pastors, I'm not gonna get all in your mix, but pastoring a traditional church and being in my 30s when I showed up, my first time I was like, hey, I'm coming in on a donkey, I'm coming in peaceably. But I got my second church and I said, I'm riding this white horse. But no, I think context.
Second coming.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think context plays a big role in how he is received in this moment. And so often, man, in the church, if it's not done the way that it's always been done, it's bucked up against. And that's, to me, that's a correlation of Jesus coming in to do the will of the Father in this moment. And here they come to buck up against it because it doesn't look like it always has looked.
But I think that's the interesting part, though. Just real quick and you hear people use that excuse a lot of times, like we ain't never did it that way before, and all that other kind of stuff, and they don't realize that the way they doing it now ain't the way that it's always been done. Facts. The huge beef that Jesus has with the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the teachers of the law is that they have deviated so far from the simplicity that was established, the basics of the law and the structure, and they started adding all of this other stuff to it and created this thing that is different than what was originally intended. And then so then when you come in and you try to restore it back to what it was, there's this perception that we've been doing it differently, that we've been doing it this way all along, and that's really not the case.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good. The one thing that I think about that kind of plays on that is the political agenda of the religious leaders. And I really correlate that to kind of what we see happening in some of the modern day evangelical circles, and how their religious positioning and posturing is absolutely for the sake of proximity or preservation of power. And so I think about all of these things we see happening in Southern Baptist Convention and across the country, where these various leaders are saying and doing wild stuff. And a lot of times in the name of, hey, I need to support the former president because he's our key to power, under the guise of some religious, we believe in, we're pro-life and all of that. But really it's just for the sake of, hey, we want to preserve how this thing has been structured because it's benefited us so well. And so that's what I think about when you think about the laws that were created. I think it's the Mishnah, right? That was created, which was known as the Hedge for the law, right? All of these rules to protect the rules. And so we see that at one of the interactions with Jesus and the Pharisees comes when the disciples are walking along and they're plucking like grain off a field on the Sabbath, and they're saying, your disciples are working on the Sabbath. And he like, yo, they hungry. Like, they need something to eat. Like, what are you talking about? So and the other thing I think about that in connection with that is the ease by which these religious leaders were able to influence that crowd that was there on Sunday to flip them by Friday. Like, that happened in a week, like less than a week. That Sunday they're like, Hosanna, Hosanna, is celebrating because they've heard about the great deeds that Jesus has done, particularly, the resurrection of Lazarus. And he's coming in, as you say, in peace on a donkey. And then by Friday, they're like, nah, bro, we want Barabbas. Like, forget that Jesus guy. Right. We want him. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, right. It's just interesting.
But Reverend Gilliam. Yeah, I'm sorry. So, okay. I was going to say, Reverend Gilliam. So when you're beholden to the empire,
Mm.
you will do.
Yeah.
You will do is frozen. Okay.
We can still hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Is it freezing up a little bit?
It's a little choppy, but we can still
Is
hear
it
you.
freezing up? Okay. So I was just saying that when you're beholden to the empire, I mean, I think you will flip like that. You will go along with even though when he rode in, they did not, the ones that were like, look, you need to quiet these folks up.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jesus responds the way he responds, said, if they stay quiet, the stones or the rocks will cry out. But I was just saying, in piggybacking on what you just said, when you are chained to the empire can pull your chain to do whatever it is they want you to do.
Yeah,
that's all I wanted to say.
Well, which I think is interesting because the people who are supposed to be they're supposed to be the leaders of God's people, you've now called them the empire, right? And I think we see the same dynamic playing. We've seen the same dynamic play out kind of in American history and more recently over the last 4 years. Because it's like, yo, how is it the same people that was like, go Barack Obama, yes we can, now they like make America great again? Like, what? it's and I just kind of see that correlation. And a lot of that turns in the context of what's taught in houses of worship, both in first century Palestine and 21st century America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the dynamics mirror themselves in our churches today. Yeah. So you think about it, Marvin. We go to seminary. What did they tell you? You pastors don't change anything for 5 years.
Right.
Go in there and do this and do that. You got to figure out who has the power. Like God has, we coming in like God has the power.
Yeah, this is the Lord's church.
The Lord's church, and you coming in zealous and saying these things, man. And from a global standard to a westernized culture, even down to our local churches, like these things are mirrored over in the Christian faith. And so I guess it's our job to be the hands and feet of Christ and to combat them in ways no different than Christ did in the teaching, in the woes, woe unto the Pharisees, woe.
Those woes.
You like Black Rob, like whoa.
Yeah.
Coming
soon.
Right. Like Jesus gives you an outline of what not to do. Like this is what you're not supposed to do. And it's a parallel to what they're doing at the time. And you just got to figure out where you're going to fall practically, like where you going to fall.
That is the question of the week. With all of these supporting characters and supporting cast that we're looking at and that we're taking time to reflect on and meditate on, that's the question for the week. Where do you fall in all of this? We had a great conversation last night about Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, and just the different ways that they connect with Jesus and the different ways that they interact with and support Jesus. And now, we kind of flip it to the other side of looking at those who are working in constant opposition of Jesus, intentionally for their own motives. And I think, there we are challenged to evaluate and assess our own hearts and to allow the Spirit and the Word to evaluate our hearts and assess our hearts and our motives and our intentions for why we do the things that we do, why we're pursuing the things that we're pursuing. Why is it that when the church wants to progress, why is it that I want to hold it back? Why is it that when people want to do something new, we say, no, we can't do it that way? Well, I think even in the last 12 months, last 13 months, God demonstrates his sovereignty in that all the things that so many churches had been saying we couldn't do, we ended up being forced to do.
Yeah.
Right.
I got, friends all over the place that were trying to add, begin streaming their services online and whatnot. And the church was like, we don't need to do that because then people not going to show up in the room, and people not going to give, and all this other, and all of those, that long list of stuff they said we can't do because it ain't going to work.
Mm-hmm.
We were forced to do, and we were able to see that God was still able to work through those things in some cases in an even greater way, and reach people that we had forgotten about.
Yeah, and John, I think that even the where do you fall question, that when I'm presenting it to people and it's challenging them from a pastoral perspective, even understand it and appreciate them if they fall in on the side of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, because I understand. So it goes back to my original thesis: necessary evil. Like without this resistance, there is no progress. And so in order for the vision to come to pass, sometimes you have to have these, as I like to call them, spiritual irritants that are constantly rubbing up against you, forming you to continue to walk as Christ did, versus allowing your flesh to overcome and you giving them what they were.
I think I agree with that, man. I think sometimes we really overlook how much the opposition actually pushes us into purpose. And pushes us to the place where we're supposed to be, because does Jesus get to the cross? How does Jesus get to the cross without the Pharisees and the Sadducees?
Right.
Without their willingness to receive Judas when he comes. How does Jesus get there? And I'm sure God and God's divine wisdom works all of those things out, but in the narrative that we have, if we take the Pharisees and Sadducees and high priests and these irritants and these opposing forces out, then what are we left with? And so I think we have to grapple with the thought and the idea of even saying thank you and being grateful for the conflict and for the opposition and for the people who seek to stand in their way, even selfishly to preserve themselves, because even in that, what they don't realize is they're helping us to get better and pushing us closer to doing exactly what we are created and designed to do.
And that to me is exactly what this is with this conflict. It's them trying to preserve their identity. And when you're dealing with someone that their identity is not in God, but their identity is in a position, and when that position gets threatened, they begin to push back like that. That's what this is. Jesus challenged their identity, and because they didn't really know who they were, they had no understanding of who they were. Christ was trying to. All right, I don't know that. I don't.
Man,
come on, man. Come on, Pastor.
Bring out the steel
that identity crisis, man. And we deal with it in the church all the time. Like, I don't have to call me elder. Elder of what? Like pastor, bishop, apostle. I didn't know you were there when you I'm challenged by that, instead of saying the greatest in the kingdom is a servant and one that serves. So now your identity is caught up in a title and in a position. And so now when I go to move your position, I'm really snatching your identity. So you're pushing back because this is all you've known. This is the only place you get respect. This is the only place somebody actually comes and appreciates what you have to offer. And so because this is the only space, you guard it. You guard it like a junkyard dog, man. And if anything tries to impede upon that position, which is connected to your identity, then that's when you begin to start pushing back and trying to sabotage it. But what you don't know is that God can still use that ignorance that you're presenting to work for our good and still push the vision and the mission forward.
Bro. All things are working for our good.
When you were saying that, I'm sitting there. Oh no, go ahead, Dr. Davis.
Yeah, can I jump in? So, Brother Pastor Patrick, all of that lines up, and I would just extend the other piece that when you look at the traditional, the Black Baptist traditional church, or just the traditional Black church, and you look at the history of oppression that has plagued the Black church, and we need those positions, right? We need those positions because ain't nobody else outside of the church respects me in a way that affirms my humanity and offers me dignity. So when I walk into the church, I'm going to hold on to that position.
Yeah.
You, pastor, you trying to take away my position, and I get what you're saying, but then I the piece that I wanted to tie in that becomes important is that the way Jesus handles the Pharisees, the Sadducees, Caiaphas, all the elders, the teachers, the way he handles them is either being silent on the matter, or he in turns comes up with a clever question that gets down to the core of the issue at hand and forces them, just like he did with when they asked, by what authority are you doing these things? He says, okay, if you want to know what authority, tell me by what authority was John baptized, right? And so he gets them into a position where they have to answer, and if they answer one way,
right,
they're gonna be out. If they answer the other way, they're gonna be out there. So they need to come clean with who they really are, with their identity, and where they believe that their power really lies. So I just wanted to throw in there.
You talking good, you talk good.
Yeah, I mean we're dealing with Black folks who, well, let me say,
I would say the oppressed have now become the oppressors, because here it is, you ain't have no voice, you ain't have no identity, because you were a Black man, and then you get in the church and you won't let a Black woman do anything, and they're 70% of the congregation. So now the oppressed have become the oppressors. And at the end of the day, I understand, brother, that your identity is tied to your position, but your position is not going to get you into heaven. And so we have to ask those tough and challenging questions to push back so that we can have transformation. Without it, there's no transformation.
The whole idea of relationship.
Yeah.
Being in relationship. So if I'm in a Black church, or in a traditional Black church, which is fine. How see, and then, man, we got to talk offline here. So
Patreon, Marvin, the Patreon.
When we talk about creating change, how is it that we go about? What is our methodology to bring about change in the particular context that we're in? Because we have endured centuries of hardship because of the color of our skin, because of our ethnic makeup. And so it may be that, I'm trying to hold on to my power, but man, you don't know what it's like out here for a brother or a sister. And so, yes, that whole, I mean, you brought in the gender dynamic, which that has to be handled as well. And so, I'm agreeing with you, man. I agree with you as well. There's a deeper look that we as pastors have to go because we can get frustrated. We get frustrated. I mean, I get frustrated. Yes. Absolutely. But what is it that God is trying to say with that particular person or group of people, and how we relate to help them to see them be free? Because, Cone talks about, once God has liberated you and you've seen that revelation, it is in turn up to us to help go liberate and free somebody else.
Right. That's why I passed the way I passed.
I think that what's really interesting about this particular portion of the dialogue for me is thinking about Jesus's charge to to anybody that's going to follow him is that, you know, he says, if you're going to be my disciple, you got to take up your cross. You got to deny yourself, take up your cross and follow me. And as you were talking, Cason, I was sitting here and I was thinking, I was like, wow, at the end of the day, we going to end up crucifying somebody. And that decision of who we crucify is based on where our identity rests. Because if our identity rests in who we are and what we do and our titles and our roles and the perceptions of power that we have, then we're going to crucify Jesus. But if we understand who Jesus is and we realize that our identity is in him, then we will crucify ourselves. And I think that gives us, you know, that litmus test for leadership in the church. Who are you crucifying? Are you trying to preserve yourself and, you know, and crucifying Jesus in the process? Or are you trying to promote, push, elevate, glorify, magnify Jesus? Because the only way to do that is to crucify yourself. But that's painful.
And when you say, Pastor Jonathan, when you say crucify yourself, what exactly, what are you saying?
Believes in Galatians 5 that, you know, where it talks about if we are believers, we will crucify our flesh, our personal desires, and our wants and our objectives and our agendas and our goals and our ideas about how things are going to be done. And we will submit those to the one who created us, shaped us, formed us, positioned us, gifted us, purposed us, and has a plan for us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I oftentimes ask our leaders, do you come to serve or do you come to be seen? Because that's a relative question.
Yeah.
Because if the only time I said a servant only wants to be seen serving. Outside of that, you don't want to be seen doing it. So if I don't call your name, if I don't acknowledge your position, if I don't call, you know, do you come to be seen or do you come to serve?
Yeah.
The people have power issues because they confuse being served and being served by others.
This is a question that was raised in the chat that I think correlates exactly with, you know, what you were just sharing, and what you were saying. And why are we serving? If we're serving in the model of Jesus, then it's, you know, I've come to serve and not to be served.
Yeah.
Right. To give my life as ransom for many, right?
Right.
But
and the reason why he does what he does on Thursday.
Yeah. Right. The towel.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut across.
No, you could. But I was gonna say, but if we come to be seen, then that means that we're walking around fasting, looking our very poorest with sackcloth and ashes.
Yep. So that's the indictment that Jesus gives the Pharisees and the teachers of the law.
Early
when
too.
you pray, don't pray as the hypocrites do, because they like to stand up and use big words and pray real loud, and you know, and I'm gonna shut up because y'all done already said it.
I actually had
good. That's good.
Man, leave my church because I stopped the deacons from praying on Sunday morning. So we have an elder of prayer and intercession, and the deacons come down when we do open up the doors of the church, and they're praying with people for the altar call and things. And I got a ministry of prayer. Well, brother, I ain't stopped nobody from praying. They pray every Sunday. They just don't pray in the pulpit. They praying.
Yeah.
So if you have a ministry of prayer, we have room for your ministry here. But because you want to be seen praying on the pulpit, talking about Lord, we sin every hour. My wife said, I don't sin every hour, every minute, every day. That much. Nobody should sin that much. Like the reality is, like I've gotten to the place, chap, in my ministry, man, where I have a zero tolerance for the foolishness of the flesh. Like the reality is, there are lives at stake.
Eternity
That are pouring in, man. That this is somebody's forever. There are people out there addicted to drugs. There are people in abusive relationships. There are people about to commit suicides, and you want to get up here playing church. Like, I ain't got time for that. And I tell them very, very quaintly, like, I don't have time for that. So I think Jesus, in challenging these Pharisees and Sadducees in the midst on his way to crucifixion, is like, yo, this is the kingdom. Like, this is not what my Father intended for this to be. And I got to check y'all right here and let you know what it is.
And that's the Jesus Cason. That's the Jesus nobody really like. Nobody wants that kind of Jesus.
I love that.
Nobody wants a Jesus that's going to push back, that's going to get angry, that's going to tear some stuff up in the church in order to get the church straight and call you out for what it is in order for us to continue in this mission.
Right.
We like it when it's the guest pastor because we know he's going home.
Say that again.
We like it when it's the guest pastor because we know he's going home. He can come in and tear whatever he want to, and we'll slide under the pews and
right back together.
We'll fall out. Yep. But he going home though.
Yeah.
And so he can think that we changed.
Yeah.
But the one that got to stay gonna know the truth.
Oh, he preached, Reverend. He preached.
Oh, dude.
What you gonna do different?
I hope they heard you. I hope they heard what you're saying. Preacher.
What you gonna do different?
Oh, that's good, man.
The other thing that I see with what's also interesting to me is how there's this string after he comes into Jerusalem, after he curses the fig tree, after he comes into the temple, he begins this litany of parables, right? And it gets down to the greatest commandment, them asking about the greatest commandment. And I'm looking at Matthew 22 and 34. It says, hearing that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, the Pharisees got back together, right? One of them, expert of law, tested him with the question, teacher, what is the greatest? What I find interesting, and then also when you look at the piece where, and I know I'm getting, in terms of days, getting ahead of myself, but where you look at the Luke narrative, where Pilate says, "Oh, Jesus is from this particular region. Let me send him over to Herod." Right? Herod interrogates him, sends him back to Pilate. It says that Pilate and Herod now become friends. What always interests me is that it's interesting how folks, and this feeds into your hypothesis, Cason, that I may not like you, you may not like me, but when we have a common enemy, we're going to come together and we're going to tear you apart. And to me, that is that is so that parallels where many of our churches, might or have experienced today, where you have different factions in the church. They may not like this family, may not like that family, but if we coming against whatever leader, the pastor, whoever, we gonna at least come together to do what we need to do and bring about crucifixion.
If only we would realize that Satan was the enemy.
Right. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
What you're saying, Pastor Chapman, is some people are friends with Satan.
No lies detected.
Basically, pretty much it.
Right. They looked at me funny the other day, man. I was doing a funeral and I said, I gotta let y'all know some people want to go to hell. And they looked at me, they was like, well, Reverend, that's not nice to say. Oh, well, it's the truth though. Like some folks, I tell people all the time, man, like if you're not feeling some pressure or pushback from the enemy, it's probably because you're on his team. It's a probability because the enemy doesn't combat anybody that doesn't have any power, doesn't have any authority in God. So you're probably a puppet.
That goes back to your identity formation piece.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm gonna walk that line, Davis. I'm gonna walk that line of that necessary evil thesis. That's
right there.
Yeah, that's my thesis right there.
I hear you.
The Lynching Sermon Series 2022.
Oh goodness.
No, I think that's good. One of the things that I think, and I was talking to another pastor about this when I think about, how in our previous iteration of church, our pre-COVID iteration of church, that we had to navigate and deal with those politics. And in many ways, where we find ourselves now is that the politics are still probably there, but we don't hear the noise as much in this season, because we're not, seeing the folks still talking, but they in their own house and they can't get together in the parking lot and have the meetings after meetings. And so I think in many ways, this season has been a runway for us to move forward and to move a little quicker with accomplishing goals and getting things done. But it's going to be interesting to see as we move towards reopening and returning to in-person gathering, how those dynamics play out, and to see what the people have learned from all we tried to share and preach during the season.
Cason right now. We look.
The necessary evil ain't going nowhere.
Hey man, listen, I'm not conforming.
Yeah,
I'm not conforming, and I've made up in my mind. I'm gonna pastor people that want to be pastored. If they don't want to be pastored, then it ain't my job to pastor them. I can't. You can't pastor somebody that doesn't want to be pastored, man. And so, yeah, I'm going to choose the Jesus model of silence when that foolishness arises. I'm going to choose that model of just like writing in the sand when they bring me the silly stuff, because I don't want to call nobody stupid. So when they bring me the silly stuff, I don't want to be disrespectful. And so I'm learning how God in this season was not just intentional for the church. I believe that this season was intentional to empower the pastor to preach Christ and preach him crucified and preach him resurrected. I believe that this season was very strategic for the preacher to get back to the essence of their ministry that God is calling them to. And God did a level of not just separation and isolation, but sanctification in this moment to get us to a place to prepare to move into the next shift and the next realm that he has prepared for us. And I just refuse to go back. I refuse. Well, y'all know me, I'm non-compliant anyway. So I just refuse to comply and go back, man. And you come with it if you want to. I'm gone. I don't have time for it. So.
Well, interesting. It's interesting that you say that, though, because I think what we see with the Pharisees and the scribes and the chief priests is that after this moment of this chaotic moment of Jesus's crucifixion, resurrection, their influence, their role begins to diminish, and it takes a while, but even when we look at just globally today, of course, still in Judaism, the religious leaders still have a significant role, but in terms of global impact and influence, with their choices during that moment to crucify Jesus, it began, what they worked so hard to protect ultimately ends up leading to their demise. where, you know, you get out of the resurrection 50 days later, the Holy Spirit arrives, and boom, 3,000 people that was just in the temple with you are now joining the disciples of Jesus who y'all crucified 50 days ago. And you know, it's really, it just makes me think, you know, to your point, Cason, like how much upheaval has taken place over this last year. And those who were in those kind of positions of influence that haven't been growing during this year, that haven't been plugged in, that haven't been praying, that haven't been allowing God to do his work in their hearts, when things come back, it's going to be a different ball game. You know, you could have somebody who went into the pandemic in spiritual kindergarten who comes back, you know, spiritually speaking, a senior in high school. And, you know, you got this leader who was in the 6th grade before the pandemic, and now they in 5th grade, 4th grade. You know, and so it's gonna be really interesting how those dynamics play out as we reopen fully and as bodies come back together, and how people make the decisions about where they need to be and what battles they want to fight.
I'm sensing, man, and I'm believing a great awakening, an influx of people coming in. Like I told one of my elder of intercessory prayer, I said, I see, you know, some guys were like, oh, people ain't coming back. That's not what I see. You know, that's not what I see.
Right.
In the Black community, they need the Black church. Like, virtual is cool, but the saints want to be in the building, Doc.
Yeah.
Like they coming back. And then there are people, because we've been on this virtual platform, that we've been able to reach, that God has extended our reachability, that we would never reached before, that we would have never had an opportunity to touch. And they're saying, I went through this pandemic, God, or I had COVID, I lost my job, the Lord sustained me. It's given me a deeper faith, a deeper understanding, a deeper belief. When the doors open, Reverend, I'm gonna be there.
I've had people tell me that. I've had them tell me, hey, we've been checking y'all out. As soon as y'all say the door is open, we coming.
We there.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm just amazed, because there are people that I never expect. Like, oh, really? Oh, all right.
That's what such a time as this, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
That God created us for such a time as this.
To that point, I want to raise a particular Pharisee as we close out our conversation for tonight. For our consideration, and that is Nicodemus, who shows up on the backside of the crucifixion to help bury Jesus. And I was like, I know one of them, one of the Pharisees showed up, and I think Joseph of Arimathea was a part of the Sanhedrin. And in the fact that every Pharisee ain't lost. And that sometimes the way that we live before them and even interact with them will bring about that transformation, as you talked about, Cason. And so it just, you know, I think it's John 19, where it says, Nicodemus also came bringing a mixture of 75 pounds of myrrh and aloes. They took Jesus' body, wrapped it in linen clothes. Like that, he would take that time out to share in that moment, when the rest of the Pharisees are, you know, they probably popping bottles. They like
popping wineskins.
Oh, wineskins, correct. Old wineskins too. You know, but here's Nicodemus, who's had this interaction with Jesus earlier in the Gospel of John, that somehow over that course of time then shifts his perspective to say, hold up, like, in the very least, paying respects to Jesus, which seems to be, you know, what was happening in this piece in John 19. I just wanted to throw that out for consideration as we as we prepare to close tonight.
But I think the difference with Nicodemus, though, that we see in Scripture is that, and we see that in his late night conversation with Jesus.
Yeah.
He has a different openness to what it is Jesus is offering. And, whereas others have allowed their position and their title and their role to insulate and isolate them, Nicodemus isn't afraid to pursue truth. And because of that, he is rewarded differently with a different perspective and a different understanding of who Jesus is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we will embrace that and continue pursuing truth, even for those who have, held positions in church for a long time and, and are struggling with change, if we will pursue truth, then we'll develop a different perspective of Jesus that will allow us to not only see him differently, but experience him differently.
Yeah, I think that approaches everything. Nicodemus was just trying to figure some stuff out,
Mm-hmm.
And here are the Pharisees that at every turn they're using their conversation and interactions to find ways to discredit.
Mm-hmm.
So the message is getting through. The message is getting through. There's hope for him.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what we got to, I think when we look at what Nicodemus does, and as he comes to Jesus, I think it becomes important for us to say, maybe that message was just for him at that particular time. And not that you're not concerned about the others, but this one got it.
Yeah.
This one understood.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
I think it also speaks to why we seek Jesus, though, because to where Marvin was going, the other times that you see the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you read about them going to find Jesus. It's so that they can try to trap him or trip him up. But Nicodemus goes seeking answers, seeking truth, seeking understanding. And if so I think even too, if we are in church and we are not seeing growth, or we're not comfortable with change, we're not embracing the different things that God is trying to do, then what are we really seeking when we come to the building? What are we really seeking when we come together with the body? What are we really seeking when we come to God in prayer and when we go to the word and study? What are we really seeking? Are we seeking understanding, or are we seeking evidence and validation for what we already think and already believe?
Right. That's good. What are we seeking? Yeah.
What are we seeking?
It's interesting because I saw I was reading something the other day, and I can't even give you the whole context of what the piece was about, but what resonated was just how a lot of times we talk about Jesus's words where he says, talking about the kingdom, asking you shall receive, seeking you shall find, knocking the door will be open to you, and we never think about the fact that doesn't come with stipulations. Like in the kingdom, we are free to ask what we want to ask, but based on what we ask, that determines what we receive. We're free to seek what we're going to seek, but that doesn't mean that what we're seeking is disconnected. What we're going to find is different from what we're seeking. And so I say all that to say, we have the freedom to seek the Jesus that we want to lift up, or to seek the Jesus that we want to crucify. We have the freedom to seek the relationships with our brothers and sisters that are going to help us to grow to become a stronger church, or to seek reasons and information and ways to expose and isolate and separate people. We are free to pursue edification of one another or destruction of one another, and whatever we pursue is what we're going to find.
Right.
And so, you know, for those that are watching tonight, the question is, you know, if you're not happy with what you're finding in church, then what are you seeking?
Right.
Because whatever you seek is what you're gonna find.
Right.
Whatever doors you knock on, the door's gonna be open.
Yeah.
Whatever you keep asking for, that's what you're gonna receive.
Yeah. John, to piggyback off of something that you said, there's this movie called Collateral Beauty. By Will Smith, and he starts off by saying, "What is your why?"
Yeah.
And so with my leaders, like once a year, I come in and we sit down, and I be like, "What is your why? Like, why are you serving? Why are you in this position? Are you in this position?" And I had to get to the place, man, as a pastor, where I just stopped filling positions just to fill positions. I had to stop.
Yeah.
Because you get somebody in there that's not passionate, that's not ordained, that's not anointed, and then you do more cleanup than you do ministry.
Yeah.
So I told him the other day, I said, "Hey, God gives me a vision. I'm going to come and give you the vision. If we ain't got nobody to lead it, maybe the vision is not for such a time as this."
Right.
Like, what is your why?
Yeah.
Like, what? This baffles me, Dr. Davis. Why do you go to a church and talk about the pastor and you still a member there?
Still helping to pay his salary.
He turned his camera off. Why? That makes absolutely no sense to me.
Bro.
Why? I tell them all the time, I open the doors of the church not just to let people in, but the door don't just let people in, let people out. Go where you can grow.
Yeah.
What is your why?
Right.
Because I would rather you be somewhere where you're being fed and you're growing and God is moving in your life than to be miserable raising hell here and miss the kingdom. I don't want you to miss the kingdom.
Yeah.
I'm not putting you out because I don't like you. I'm putting you out because if you stay here, you might miss the kingdom.
Right.
Yeah.
It's for your benefit.
Wow.
What is your why?
That's it.
That's your sandals on.
That's to shut it down, y'all. That's to shut it down right there. Because not only do we need to ask others why, I mean, I'm asking why too. What's my why?
What's my why?
Lord,
Yeah.
continue to speak.
Yeah.
I need to be sure, right?
Yeah.
I need to be sure. Yeah. No, that's good. If you are not happy where you are, you know, I guess do you have the courage? Because everything may be at that particular place. This is where everybody is for me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Mama, daddy.
Yep.
Big mama and them. Right? I grew up, this is where I grew up. So if the why is, well, maybe it's not, maybe it no longer is here, but definitely is somewhere else. Do you have the courage to say, okay, let me go, let me follow the path of my why?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that's got to be difficult. That's got to be difficult to say, I'm not sure. And it may not be, because I don't like the pastor, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. It just may be an uneasiness in one's spirit. And even during this moment of pandemic, I think God is speaking and making it very clear.
Yeah.
Where is it that I need to be where I can be of the best good to somebody else or somebody in whoever it is that I'm serving?
Yeah.
But that's got to be difficult for you to, if your why is somewhere else and you, the encouragement from the Spirit of God may be to move, that takes a lot of courage.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, though, it takes less courage now in this moment than it will in 6 months.
Right.
Because don't nobody know what service you're watching right now.
Right.
And when people reopen, they don't know where you went.
Yeah.
Right. Exodus.
Right.
Yeah.
So golly, man, we could keep going. We know this already, but we said 45 minutes to an hour. This has been again another night of great dialogue. We appreciate you, brothers, so much for joining us tonight and being a part of this conversation. Please share with everybody information about where they can find you, where they can continue to follow you, and also share any concluding words that you may have.
H. Pastor Cason.
We'll let one of the bald men with beards on the bottom of the screen go first.
one of the cues will go first, huh? Okay. We appreciate that.
Hey, look, y'all about to go boost tonight. I ain't gonna hold you. Go boost tonight, brother.
let me pull up that Atomic Dog track.
You really want to get some viewers, huh? No, H. Patrick Cason, senior pastor at Bethany Baptist Church, address 2587 Campostello Road, Chesapeake, Virginia. Website www.experiencebethany.com. All of our social media is at Experience Bethany. Pastor Chapman, Pastor Gilliam. Thank you, because I didn't know. Thank you. Davis, I ain't know either. I was like, oh. It's one of them days, and I don't know.
Don't throw me under the bus, man.
No. I before you came on, I said the same thing. I was like, I don't know. I don't even do that. What's that? Pastor Davis, Pastor Gilliam, Pastor Chapman, thank you all so much for allowing me to come and share my thoughts on the topic and the characters today. I would just say, go where you can grow. That's what I would leave. Go where you can grow.
Price Davis, senior pastor at Moses Memorial Baptist Church, 2901 Mechanicsville Turnpike, Richmond, Virginia, 23223. We are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and we are there at Mosby Memorial Baptist Church. Our Instagram page right there on the screen at MMBCRVA, and we are there every Sunday, 10:30 a.m. And this Sunday we'll be there 2 times, sunrise service and 10:30 service re-aired, and that will be a recorded service. So we are there, and again, I just want to say to Pastor Jonathan, to my brother, Reverend, soon to be Dr. Marvin Gilliam. I'm gonna put that out there. To Reverend Gilliam, to brother Pastor Patrick Cason, frat brother. I appreciate you all. I'm still kind of reeling off of my sermon from Sunday, which was entitled Suffering and Service, and the need for us to really embrace this moment of Holy Week and not just rush to Resurrection Sunday.
Yeah.
And it's important, and I thank God for Reverend Gilliam and Pastor Gilliam and Pastor Jonathan, for you all and this vision that you have and bringing us on, and helping us to really engage the conversation during this week and to engage these characters that Jesus encounters on his way to the cross. So I appreciate you all. Continue to struggle, continue to endure that suffering, because hope is on the way.
Yeah. Amen.
Cool.
I think for me, what resonates from this conversation tonight is that identity check, especially being in a position of power, authority, and influence. being careful to not allow my identity to be wrapped up in that. Because when it's time for me to pass that on to somebody else, I don't want to get in the way of and try to stop what the Lord is trying to do, just because I'm afraid that if that's gone, then I have nothing left. Definitely ensuring that my identity remains in Christ, and that if I should lose everything else, as long as I got Him,
My.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
I don't need nobody else.
Long.
Yeah. For me, it goes back to the top.
Cason, check. Cason, check the chat. Check the chat.
Oh, I got you, bro. I got you.
Yeah. I think it goes back to the top, man, to the very place where we started tonight, with this whole notion of necessary evil, and understanding that not all evil, not all opposition comes in a form to just it may try to destroy us, but really what it's doing is pushing us forward. And embracing it as wind, and as wind in our sails, as the ability, and recognizing that we're getting better in the moment as we go through, and that we're getting closer to where we are supposed to be and what we're supposed to be doing, and allowing that vision, whatever that vision is, to come to pass. And I think that's something that we carry with us from this conversation tonight, man. So grateful for y'all brothers, man. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you all.
Been very
y'all keep on doing what y'all doing. This is good stuff. This is good stuff.
Yes, sir.
This is quarterly stuff.
Yeah, we're working on some stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah,
we working on some stuff, and trust me, when we do it, whenever that is, trust and believe that you brothers will always have a seat at the table.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you, and thank you so much for your contributions tonight, to your friendship, to your brotherhood. Because that means so much as pastors in the world today. And so thank you all for answering the call when we reached out to you. And we're grateful for those of you that have joined us tonight online, all over the place, on YouTube's and church websites and all over Facebook and stuff. Thank you all so much for being present in this conversation tonight and growing with us through this as we wrestle with some of these things. We're grateful for you. And we're looking forward to you joining us again tomorrow night, where we'll be back. And joining us from Omaha, Nebraska, will be Pastor Portia Cavett of the Clare Memorial United Methodist Church. She is, of course, one of our returners as well. So we look forward to welcoming her back. And Marvin, who you bringing up tomorrow night?
We got Reverend Sean Jones from the Star Bethlehem Baptist Church in Ossining. I think that's how you say it. Ossining, New York. Tomorrow night. So we'll be sharing, and we'll be talking about.
Tell him, Marvin. Tell him who we talking about tomorrow night.
Talking about Judas.
Dum, dum, dum.
My.
Man, I got some controversial stuff on Judas, boy.
It's funny because
I'm gonna tune in and just put questions up.
Yeah, do it, man. Do it, man. Do it. Yeah.
Hey, go ahead, bro.
No, go ahead.
No, it ain't. No, go see. You go ahead.
Well, we about to wrap it up. So
okay, so I see Pierre Green is on. Was the other guy that he was on with? Was he an alpha?
No.
Okay.
No.
You got two Qs on tonight.
Tomorrow night we'll have two.
You got two Qs on tonight. Pierre. Be greatest.
Tomorrow night is an AKA and a Kappa.
Incorporated.
You said tomorrow's an AKA.
Tomorrow night is an AKA and a Kappa.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So anyway, again to everyone out there that's been watching and joining, following along with us, thank you so much. We pray that this conversation, this reflection, this meditation continues to be a blessing to you as you try to answer that question. Who are you, and where do you fall in this?
Yeah.
In terms of our relationship with Jesus, and whether we are working in opposition or in concert with his work here in the world. We love you. God bless you. We look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night at the same time, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. And we pray, as always, that you live each day on purpose.
There's no limit to what God can do. Believe bigger. We love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Have a great night.
All right.